Introduction to Stoicism. Let's journey back to a time of marble temples and olive groves, to the heart of ancient Athens. Imagine the warmth of the Mediterranean sun, the murmur of philosophers debating beneath colonnades, and the salty breeze drifting from the Aegean Sea. Here, over 2,000 years ago, a philosophy was born, a philosophy not of grand theories, but of quiet strength, a philosophy named Stoicism. This story begins with a merchant named Zeno of Citium, a man who lost everything when his ship, laden with treasures, sank beneath the waves. But in that loss, Zeno found something far greater. He wandered the streets of Athens, stepped into a humble bookstore, and there he discovered the words of Socrates. Inspired, he began teaching beneath the Stoa Poikile, the painted porch, where his students gathered to learn how to navigate life's storms. And so, Stoicism began, not as a set of rules, but as a way of living, a way of finding calm in chaos, purpose in pain, and freedom in acceptance. The Stoics taught that true happiness, what they called eudaimonia, is not found in wealth, fame, or fleeting pleasures. It is found in living virtuously, in aligning your actions with wisdom, courage, justice, and self-control. Imagine the ocean, they would say. The waves may crash, the winds may howl, but beneath the surface lies a depth of stillness. That stillness is within you. At the core of Stoicism are three simple truths. First, focus only on what you can control: your thoughts, your choices, your reactions. The rest, the opinions of others, the twists of fate, the passing of time, these are like the tides. They rise and fall beyond your command. Second, accept what you cannot change. The Stoics compared this to a tree bending in the wind. It does not fight the storm. It sways. It adapts. It survives. So too must we accept life's unpredictability, the loss, the grief, the unexpected joy, with equal grace. Third, live in harmony with nature, not just the forests and rivers, but your nature. You are a rational being, capable of reason and compassion. To live fully is to embrace this truth. The great Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who ruled an empire yet wrote nightly in his journal, Seneca, the playwright and advisor who faced exile and betrayal, Epictetus, the former slave who taught that freedom lies in the mind. These were not cold, unfeeling men. They were warriors of the spirit. They knew suffering intimately, yet they chose to see the world with clear eyes and a steady heart. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." These words were not meant for grand speeches, but for quiet reflection, for the moments when fear grips the chest, when doubt clouds the mind. You have power over your mind. Seneca, in his letters, reminded us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. How often do we lie awake, haunted by tomorrow's worries? The Stoics whispered, let go of what has not yet come. The present moment is all we truly hold. And Epictetus, born into bondage, taught that no chains can bind the soul. It's not what happens to you, he said, but how you respond. A lesson carved from hardship, a lesson for all who feel trapped by circumstance. Stoicism is not about denying emotion. It is about seeing clearly. When anger flares, pause. Ask, is this within my control? When grief weighs heavy, ask, can I transform this pain into wisdom? When joy arrives, savor it, but know that it, too, will pass. Like the ocean's tides, emotions ebb and flow. The Stoic learns to float. Today, these ancient teachings still resonate. In a world of noise and haste, Stoicism offers an anchor, a reminder that peace is not found in perfect conditions, but in mastering the self. When deadlines loom, when relationships strain, when sleep eludes you, return to the three truths. Control what you can, accept what you cannot. Live in harmony with your nature. Imagine now the ocean at dusk. The sky blushes pink, the waves sigh against the shore, and the first stars begin to gleam. This is the Stoic's world, a world where chaos and order dance in balance, where every storm is a teacher and every setback a chance to grow. So breathe deeply and let these truths sink into your bones. You are not helpless. You are the captain of your mind. The storms will come. They always do. But you hold the compass. You choose whether to fight the waves or ride them, to fear the dark or trust the dawn. Stoicism is not a relic of the past. It is a quiet voice in the night, a hand on your shoulder, a reminder. You are stronger than you think. You are freer than you feel. The ocean within you is vast and still and unshakable. The Dichotomy of Control. Close your eyes now and imagine standing on a quiet shore. The waves roll in, one after another, their rhythm steady and eternal. Some waves are gentle, lapping at your feet. Others are fierce, crashing against the rocks. But the ocean does not ask permission. It simply is. This is the way of life, Epictetus would say. Some things flow to us and others recede, all beyond our command. Let's travel back to a small room in ancient Nicopolis, where a former slave named Epictetus taught his students. His voice, calm and weathered, carried a truth that still echoes today. Some things are within our control, others are not. These words, simple yet profound, are the heart of Stoicism, the key to peace, the antidote to suffering. Epictetus knew hardship intimately. Born into slavery, his body bore the scars of a master's whip. Yet his mind, unshackled. He taught that freedom lies not in changing the world, but in mastering our perceptions. We cannot choose our external circumstances, he said, but we can always choose how we respond. Picture a garden. You plant seeds with care, watering them, nurturing the soil. But you cannot force the sun to shine or the rain to fall. You cannot command the wind to spare your blossoms. The garden thrives not by your will alone, but by harmony with forces greater than yourself. This is the dichotomy of control. What, then, is truly ours to govern? First, your thoughts. Like a sculptor with clay, you shape your mind. When anger flares, you can soften it. When fear whispers, you can question it. Epictetus wrote, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." A rainy day is not good or bad. It is simply rain. Your judgment paints it. Second, your actions. Each morning, you choose kindness or cruelty, effort or apathy. A farmer does not control the harvest, but they can till the soil. A sailor does not control the storm, but they can adjust the sails. Your hands may tremble, but they are still your hands. Third, your values. Integrity, compassion, courage. These are yours to nurture, regardless of the world's chaos. The Stoics called this your inner citadel, a a fortress no external force can breach. And what lies beyond your control, the past, immutable as stone, the future, uncertain as mist, the opinions of others, shifting as sand, the body's aging, the world's injustice, the length of your days. Epictetus would say, do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do. Let this truth sink into your bones. Resistance to the unchangeable is the root of anguish. Imagine a leaf caught in a river. It fights the current, straining to float upstream. It tires, it sinks. Another leaf relaxes, turning gently with the flow. It travels farther, seeing wonders the first leaf never could. The river does not care which path the leaf chooses. It flows onward. So too does life. The Stoics were not passive. They were warriors of acceptance. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, faced rebellions, plagues, and betrayal. Yet each night he wrote in his journal, today I shall meet interference, ingratitude, insolence, but I cannot be angry, for I choose not to harm my own mind. Seneca, exiled to a barren island, penned letters of gratitude. A prison cell, he said, is just a room. My mind is free. Epictetus taught his students to rehearse this dichotomy daily. Upon waking, they would whisper, today, I will encounter meddlers, ungrateful people, arrogance, but I will not let their actions disturb my peace, for those things are not mine to control. Let's practice now. Breathe in and out. Think of a weight you carry, a worry about tomorrow, a regret from yesterday. Picture it as a stone in your palm. Feel its roughness, its coldness. Now, ask yourself, is this stone mine to change? If it is, place it gently in your pocket. Carry it with purpose. If it is not, set it down. Let the earth take it. The wind may howl, the rain may fall, but you are not the storm. You are the stillness beneath it. Epictetus reminds us. Happiness and freedom begin with understanding this simple principle. Some things are within our control, and some things are not. When sleeplessness grips you, when worries swarm like restless birds, return to this truth. You cannot silence the night, but you can close your eyes. You cannot stop the clock, but you can breathe. You cannot erase the past, but you can rest in the now. The dichotomy of control is not a philosophy of resignation. It is an invitation to focus your energy where it matters, on the garden within. Marcus Aurelius's Meditations. Picture a quiet night in ancient Rome. The city sleeps, but in a candlelit chamber, an emperor writes. His pen scratches softly across parchment, not laws or battle plans, but private thoughts, reminders to himself. This is Marcus Aurelius, ruler of an empire, yet humble student of life. His meditations were never meant for fame. They were midnight whispers to his soul, and now to yours. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Let these words sink into your breath. Power over your mind, not the chaos of the world, nor the noise of others, but the quiet space within. Imagine your thoughts as leaves floating down a river. You cannot stop the current, but you can choose which leaves to hold and which to let go. Marcus Aurelius knew storms. Plagues ravaged his cities. Wars tested his armies. Betrayals shadowed his court. Yet each night he returned to his journal, writing, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." Close your eyes now and let his voice guide you on impermanence. Think of the universe as one living being, all things interwoven, sharing one soul. Beneath the stars, everything changes. Seasons turn, mountains erode, even empires crumble to dust. Marcus wrote of this often, the fleeting dance of existence. A flower blooms at dawn, wilts by dusk, yet its beauty is no less real. You, too, are part of this dance. Your worries, your joys, your restless thoughts, they are passing clouds in an infinite sky. Let them drift. Remember, matter, how tiny your share of it, time, how brief and fleeting your allotment, fate, how small a role you play in it on morning preparation. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I shall meet meddlers, ingrates, arrogant men, but I cannot be harmed by any of them, for I will not perceive insult. Each dawn, Marcus prepared for battle, not with swords, but with mindset. Imagine him rising, armorless, repeating, today I choose peace. You need no armor tonight. Let your breath be your shield. Inhale, I control my mind. Exhale, I release what I cannot change, on inner stillness. Nowhere can you find a more peaceful retreat than in your own soul. Deep within you lies a sanctuary, a room without clocks, without screens, without voices demanding more. Marcus called this your inner citadel. To enter, you need only breathe and release. Picture a stone dropped into a still pond, ripple after ripple, until the water smooths again. Your thoughts are those ripples. Let them fade. Let the pond grow still. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What color is your soul tonight? Let it soften to the blue of twilight, the silver of moonlit waves. On acceptance. Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. Marcus believed in Amor Fati, love of fate. Not resignation, but trust. Imagine a weaver at her loom. Each thread, joy, sorrow, loss, is essential to the tapestry. You cannot see the pattern yet, but trust the loom. Breathe into this truth. What is meant for you will not pass you by. Guided reflection. Let's walk with Marcus tonight. Imagine a path through an olive grove. Moonlight filters through the branches. The air smells of earth and sage. With each step, repeat his words. The universe is change. Life is opinion. Your worries are opinions. Your fears are opinions. They are not facts. They are stories you can rewrite. Now, picture a stream. Kneel beside it. Take a stone, a thought that burdens you, and etch it with a single word. Control. Hold it tight. Feel its weight. Now, release it to the water. Watch it sink, vanish, carried away. Marcus whispers, waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one on sleep itself. When you have trouble getting out of bed, say to yourself, I am rising to do the work of a human being. Even emperors struggled to rise. But tonight, you need not do anything. Tonight you are free to be, to rest, to trust that the world will turn without your grip. Give yourself a gift, the present moment. The past is a shadow, the future, a rumor. This breath, this heartbeat, this is your kingdom. Closing affirmations. I am not my thoughts. I am the stillness beneath them. I hold power over my mind. The rest I release. Amor, Fati, loving your fate. Close your eyes and imagine a tree, not just any tree, a gnarled, ancient oak. Its trunk twists with scars from lightning strikes. Its branches stretch unevenly, shaped by decades of storms. Yet here it stands, rooted, unbroken, alive. This tree does not curse the tempest that battered it. It does not mourn the lost limbs. It simply grows around the wounds and becomes more beautiful for them. This is Amor Fati, the love of fate. The phrase belongs to Friedrich Nietzsche, a philosopher who danced on the edge of despair and found light there. But its roots dig deep into Stoic soil. The Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, whispered versions of this truth long ago. Do not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do. Nietzsche took their wisdom and set it ablaze. To him, Amor Fati was not passive acceptance, but a fiery, full-hearted yes to life, all of life. The joy, the grief, the unanswerable questions. Let's wander back to Nietzsche's world, a man plagued by illness, isolation, and a mind too vast for his era. In his darkest hours, he wrote, "My formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity, not resignation, but celebration. To love fate is to kiss the thorns and the petals, knowing both are needed to make the rose." The Stoics prepared for misfortune like soldiers drilling for battle. Premeditatio malorum, the practice of imagining worst-case scenarios, was their armor. Nietzsche, too, faced his demons head-on, but he wore no armor. Instead, he asked, what if every bad thing is secretly a teacher, a sculptor chiseling your soul? Picture a river. It does not rage against the rocks in its path. It flows around them, through them, carving canyons over time. The rocks, once obstacles, become part of its song. This is Amor Fati, not fighting the current, but learning to dance with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Nietzsche echoed, "You must be ready to burn yourself in your own flame. How could you rise anew if you have not first become ashes?" Here lies the heart of it. To love your fate is to trust the alchemy of struggle. The sleepless nights that teach you patience, the heartbreak that cracks you open to compassion, the failures that force you to grow. These are not punishments. They are the universe asking, how badly do you want to live? Nietzsche's life was a testament to this. Plagued by migraines and near blindness, he wrote his most radiant works in dim rooms, scribbling words he could barely see. He called his suffering a hammer, not to destroy him, but to shape him. "That which does not kill me," he declared, "makes me stronger." But this is not mere endurance. It is gratitude for the hammer. The Stoics would nod in agreement. Epictetus, born into slavery, taught, "Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do, and you will go on well." Nietzsche took this further. Do not just accept. Revel. Find the sacred in the scar. Let's breathe this truth into our bones. Guided visualization. Imagine you are holding a thread that represents your life. Smooth in some places, frayed in others, tangled here, knotted there. Now, imagine pulling that thread straight, ironing out every kink, cutting every knot. what remains? A bland, lifeless string. But your life is not meant to be straightened. Those knots, they are where you grew. Those frayed edges, proof you loved, you risked, you lived. Amor, Fati is holding that thread, your unique, imperfect, luminous story, and whispering, I would not trade a single knot. Nietzsche wrote, I want to learn more and more, to see as beautiful what is necessary in things. Amor, Fati, let that be my love henceforth. Practicing Amor, Fati, when sleep eludes you, when worries claw at your chest, repeat these words like a mantra. I do not choose my storms, but I choose to dance in the rain. I do not choose my wounds, but I choose to let them teach. I do not choose the path, but I choose to walk it. The Stoics turned to reason, Nietzsche turned to passion. Yet both arrived at the same truth. Freedom lies in embracing what is. Marcus Aurelius. Accept the things to which fate binds you. Nietzsche. All things are entangled, ensnared, enamored. There is no perfect life, only a life lived fully, your life, the one with the job you didn't expect, the love that slipped away, the dreams still unfolding, a story of two artists. Imagine two painters. The first rages at every mistake. A smudged line ruins the canvas. He tears it apart. The second smiles at the smudge. She blends it into the background, making it part of the art. Which painter sleeps peacefully at night? You are the canvas and the artist. Every flaw is a stroke of fate's brush. Stoic exercises for daily life. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Rome. The sun has set and the streets are hushed. In a modest home, a man sits by the flickering light of an oil lamp. He is not a king or a general, but a philosopher. His name is Seneca. Tonight, as he does every night, he practices an exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. He closes his eyes and imagines losing everything, his wealth, his status, even his loved ones. But this is not an act of despair. It is an act of liberation. By facing his fears in the safety of his mind, he robs them of their power. This is the Stoic art of negative visualization. The Stoics believe that life's greatest disruptions come not from loss itself, but from our surprise at loss. We cling to things, people, possessions, even our own lives, as if they are permanent. But nothing is permanent. The Stoics taught that by rehearsing loss, we prepare ourselves to meet it with grace. Picture a sailor before a voyage. He does not assume calm seas. He prepares for storms. He checks his ropes, secures his sails, and charts alternate routes. When the tempest comes, he is not caught off guard. He is ready. Negative visualization is the sailor's preparation. It is not about pessimism, but about resilience. Seneca wrote, "What is quite unlooked for is more crushing in its effect, and unexpectedness adds to the weight of a disaster. This is a reason for ensuring that nothing ever takes us by surprise." Now, let's turn to another Stoic exercise, one that might seem stark at first, but holds profound peace within it. It is called memento mori. Remember that you must die. In the heart of Rome, victorious generals paraded through the streets, celebrated by cheering crowds. But behind them stood a slave, whispering in their ear, "Memento mori." Remember, you are mortal. This was not meant to dampen their joy, but to deepen it. The Stoics believe that remembering death is the key to living fully, Imagine a sand timer. Each grain falls, one by one, marking the passage of time. You cannot stop the flow, but we can choose how to use the grains you have. Memento mori is not a morbid fixation on death. It is a gentle reminder to cherish the present. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote in his private journal, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Each morning, he would rise and remind himself, "Today could be my last. How will I live it?" This practice is not about fear, but about freedom. When we remember our mortality, the trivial falls away. The argument that seemed so important yesterday loses its sting. The material possessions we once craved lose their grip. What remains is what truly matters: love, kindness, the moments we share with others. Now, let's bring these exercises to life through a story. Imagine a potter at his wheel. His hands shape the clay, molding it into a beautiful vase. He knows the vase is fragile. It could crack in the kiln or shatter if dropped. But this knowledge does not stop him from creating. Instead, it makes his work more precious. He pours his heart into each curve, each detail, knowing it may not last. One day, the vase does break. The potter feels a pang of sadness, but it is fleeting. He had prepared for this moment. He had cherished the vase while it existed, but he had never clung to it. Now, he gathers the pieces and begins again. This is the essence of Stoic practice. Negative visualization teaches us to cherish what we have, knowing it may not last. Memento mori reminds us to live fully, knowing our time is limited. Together, they free us from the fear of loss and the weight of regret. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it." Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let these practices guide you. Imagine the people you love. Picture their faces, their voices, their laughter. Hold them in your mind, not with fear of losing them, but with gratitude for the time you share. Then, think of your own life. The sand timer is flowing. How will you use the grains you have? Will you waste them on worry, on anger, on things that do not matter? Or will you pour them into what is true, what is beautiful, what is kind? The Stoics were not grim figures, denying joy. They were lovers of life who understood its fragility. They taught that by facing the impermanent nature of existence, we can live with greater depth, greater peace, and greater love. So tonight, let go of what you cannot control. Hold lightly to what you cherish. And remember, each moment is a gift, each breath a miracle. Seneca on overcoming anxiety. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Rome. The city is alive with the hum of conversation, the clatter of carts, and the distant laughter of children. But in a small, candle-lit room, a man sits alone, writing. His name is Seneca. He is not writing laws or speeches, but a letter to a friend. His friend is troubled, consumed by worries about the future, haunted by fears of what might go wrong. Seneca dips his pen into ink and begins. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. These words, written over 2,000 years ago, still echo today. Seneca understood anxiety intimately. He knew how the mind can spin stories of failure, loss, and disaster. Stories that feel real, even when they are not. He called this the torture of anticipation. Picture a traveler walking through a dark forest. The path is safe, but the shadows play tricks on his mind. Every rustle of leaves becomes a predator. Every creak of a branch becomes a threat. The traveler's heart races, his breath quickens, but the danger exists only in his imagination. This is the nature of anxiety. It is not the forest that harms us, but the stories we tell ourselves about it. Seneca wrote, "There are more things to alarm us than to harm us, and we suffer more often in apprehension than in reality." He believed that anxiety is rooted in our attachment to the future. We fear what we cannot control, what might happen tomorrow, next week, or years from now. But the future is not here. It may never come, and even if it does, it will rarely match the horrors we imagine. To illustrate this, Seneca shared a story about a man named Canis Julius, a philosopher condemned to death by the Emperor Caligula. As Canis walked to his execution, a friend asked if he was afraid. Canis replied, "You are mistaken if you think I am going to my death. I am going to see if I can bear it." Canis understood that fear is not the event itself, but our reaction to it. By facing his fate with curiosity rather than dread, he robbed it of its power. Seneca taught that the same principle applies to everyday anxieties. When we worry about losing our job, we suffer the loss twice. Once in our imagination, and once, if it happens, in reality. When we fear rejection, we endure the pain before it even occurs. He wrote, "The mind is never more active than when it is inventing troubles for itself." But Seneca did not leave us without a remedy. He offered a simple yet profound practice. Return to the present moment. Imagine standing on the shore of a vast ocean. The waves crash and recede, each one carrying a thought. Some waves are gentle, lapping at your feet. Others are fierce, threatening to pull you under. But you are not the waves. You are the shore, steady, unmoving, rooted in the now. Seneca advised his friend to ask himself, what is happening right now? Is there any real danger in this moment? Often, the answer is no. The danger exists only in the mind, in the stories we tell ourselves about what might happen. He also encouraged his readers to practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is not about dwelling on fear, but about preparing for it. By imagining the worst-case scenario, we strip it of its power. We realize that even if the worst happens, we can endure it. Seneca wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." Let's bring this to life with a story. Imagine a farmer tending his fields. One day, he hears rumors of a coming storm. The sky is clear, but his mind fills with images of ruined crops, empty barns, and hungry children. He cannot sleep. He cannot eat. He paces his fields, watching the horizon. Days pass, and the storm does not come. The farmer realizes he has wasted precious time and energy on a fear that never materialized. Seneca would say, how much time he loses in worrying about what might happen, while he ignores what is happening. The farmer's anxiety did not protect him. It only robbed him of peace. Seneca believed that true peace comes from accepting the limits of our control. We cannot stop the storm, but we can prepare for it. We cannot silence the mind, but we can choose which thoughts to entertain. He wrote, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay. The same is true for anxiety. When a troubling thought arises, pause, breathe, ask, is this real or is it a story?" Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let Seneca's wisdom guide you. Picture your worries as leaves floating down a stream. You cannot stop the stream, but you can choose not to chase the leaves. Let them float by. Remember, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. The shadows in the forest are just shadows. The storm on the horizon may never come, and even if it does, you will meet it with the strength of the shore. steady, unmoving, rooted in the now. The 4 Stoic virtues. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Athens. The sun has set, and the stars begin to shimmer above the Acropolis. In a small courtyard, a group of students gathers around their teacher. They are not learning about politics or war, but about how to live a good life. The teacher speaks of 4 virtues, 4 guiding stars that light the path to inner peace. These are wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. The Stoics believe that these virtues are not abstract ideals, but practical tools for navigating life's storms. They are the compass that keeps us steady when the winds of fortune shift. Let's explore each one, not as distant concepts, but as living truths woven into the stories of those who came before us. Wisdom. Wisdom is the first virtue, the foundation upon which the others rest. It is not merely knowledge, but the ability to see clearly, to distinguish what is within our control from what is not. Picture a ship's captain navigating a storm. The waves rise and fall, the wind howls, but the captain's eyes remain fixed on the stars. He does not waste energy cursing the storm. He focuses on what he can do, adjusting the sails, steering the rudder, keeping his crew calm. This is wisdom. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus, born a slave, embodied this virtue. He taught that while we cannot control the world around us, we can control our judgments and actions. It's not what happens to you, he said, but how you respond that matters. Wisdom is the light that guides us through the darkness. It reminds us that while we cannot choose our circumstances, we can always choose our response. Courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the strength to act in spite of it. It is the virtue that allows us to face life's challenges with dignity and resolve. Imagine a soldier standing on the battlefield. The air is thick with the clash of swords and the cries of the wounded. Fear grips his heart, but he does not flee. He stands firm, not because he is unafraid, but because he believes in something greater than himself. This is courage. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, exemplified this virtue. He ruled Rome during times of war, plague, and political turmoil. Yet, each night, he wrote in his journal, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Courage is not about conquering fear, but about moving forward despite it. It is the strength to face the storm, knowing that every challenge is an opportunity to grow. Justice. Justice is the virtue of fairness, kindness, and respect for others. It is the recognition that we are all part of a greater whole and that our actions have consequences beyond ourselves. Picture a judge in a crowded courtroom. The room is tense, the stakes are high, but the judge remains impartial. He listens to each side, weighs the evidence, and delivers a verdict based on reason, not emotion. This is justice. Seneca, the Stoic statesman, lived this virtue in his daily life. He used his wealth and influence to help others, advocating for fairness and compassion. He wrote, "Wherever there is a human being, there is an opportunity for kindness. Justice is not just about laws and courts. It is about how we treat the people around us, our family, our friends, even strangers. It is the thread that binds us together, reminding us that we are all connected. Temperance. Temperance is the virtue of moderation and self-control. It is the ability to resist excess, to find balance in a world of extremes. Imagine a feast in a grand hall. The tables are laden with food and wine, and the guests are tempted to indulge. But one man eats only what he needs, savoring each bite without overdoing it. This is temperance. The Stoic philosopher Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, practiced this virtue in his own life. He lived simply, avoiding luxury and excess. He believed that true freedom comes from mastering our desires, not being enslaved by them. Temperance is not about denial, but about harmony. It is the art of finding the middle path where we can enjoy life's pleasures without being consumed by them. The virtues in harmony. The four virtues are not separate, but interconnected. Wisdom guides us to see clearly. Courage gives us the strength to act. Justice ensures that our actions benefit others, and temperance keeps us balanced along the way. Picture a tree. Wisdom is the roots, grounding us in truth. Courage is the trunk, standing firm against the wind. Justice is the branches, reaching out to others. And temperance is the leaves, finding balance in the sun and rain. The Stoics believe that by cultivating these virtues, we can live a life of peace and purpose. They are not distant ideals, but practical tools for navigating the complexities of life. Stoicism and Nature. Imagine a quiet forest at dawn. The air is cool, the light soft and golden. Birds sing in the trees, and a stream murmurs as it winds through the undergrowth. Here, in this moment, everything is as it should be. The trees grow toward the sun, the water flows downhill, and the birds sing without hesitation. This is nature, unhurried, unforced, perfectly itself. The Stoics believe that to live a good life, we must live in accordance with nature. But what does this mean? It is not merely about spending time outdoors or admiring the beauty of the natural world. It is about aligning ourselves with the fundamental truths of existence, accepting what is, embracing change, and finding our place in the greater whole. Let's begin with the Stoic understanding of nature. To them, nature was not just the physical world, the forests, rivers, and stars, but the order of the universe. They saw the cosmos as a vast, interconnected system, governed by reason and harmony. Just as a tree grows toward the light, or a river flows to the sea, humans are meant to live in harmony with this natural order. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee." We are not separate from nature, but part of it. Our well-being is tied to the well-being of the whole. Now, picture a tree in a storm. Its branches sway and bend, but its roots hold firm. It does not resist the wind, it adapts to it. This is the essence of living in accordance with nature, accepting what we cannot change and finding strength in our ability to adapt. The Stoics believe that much of human suffering comes from resisting nature. We cling to what is fleeting, youth, wealth, status, and rage against what is inevitable, aging, loss, death. But nature does not resist. It flows. A leaf does not mourn its fall from the tree. It becomes part of the soil, nourishing new growth. Seneca wrote, "Everything that happens is either endurable or not. If it is endurable, endure it. If it is not, do not complain. It will take you away soon enough." Living in accordance with nature also means embracing our own nature as rational beings. The Stoics believe that reason is our greatest gift, the spark of the divine within us. It allows us to understand the world, to make choices, and to act with purpose. Imagine a flock of birds flying in formation. Each bird knows its place, adjusting its wings to the movements of the others. They do not need words or plans. They simply follow their instincts. Humans too have an instinct, a natural inclination toward reason, virtue, and connection. Epictetus taught, first, say to yourself what you would be. Then do what you have to do. To live in accordance with nature is to live authentically, to be true to our highest selves. But how do we apply this in our daily lives? The Stoics offered practical guidance. First, accept what you cannot change. Picture a river. You cannot stop its flow, but you can choose how to navigate it. You can fight the current and exhaust yourself, or you can let it carry you, trusting that it will lead you where you need to go. Second, embrace change. Imagine the seasons. Spring turns to summer, summer to autumn, autumn to winter. Each season has its purpose, its beauty. Life, too, is a cycle of growth, decay, and renewal. To resist change is to resist life itself. Third, cultivate mindfulness. The Stoics practiced a form of mindfulness long before the term existed. They believed in being fully present, in observing the world without judgment. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do every act of your life as if it were your last." This is not a call to fear, but to presence. When we are fully present, we see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Let's bring this to life with a story. Imagine a potter at her wheel. She shapes the clay with care, her hands moving in rhythm with her breath. She doesn't force the clay. She works with it, feeling its texture, its weight, its potential. Each piece she creates is unique, shaped by the natural qualities of the clay and the skill of her hands. One day, a piece cracks in the kiln. The potter feels a pang of disappointment, but it passes quickly. She knows that the clay, like life, has its own will. She cannot control it, but she can work with it. She gathers the pieces and begins again. This is living in accordance with nature. It is not about control, but about harmony. It is about finding beauty in what is, rather than clinging to what might be. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let the wisdom of nature guide you. Picture yourself as a tree, rooted deeply in the earth, your branches reaching toward the sky. Feel the strength of your roots, the flexibility of your limbs. Breathe in and out. Remember, you are part of something greater. The same forces that shape the stars and the seas flow through you. Let go of what you cannot change. Embrace the rhythm of life. Epictetus's teachings on resilience. Imagine a small, dimly lit room in ancient Nicopolis. The air is warm, the walls lined with scrolls and simple wooden benches. A man stands at the front, his voice calm but firm. His name is Epictetus, and though he was once a slave, he is now a teacher, a guide for those seeking strength in the face of life's storms. His students lean forward, listening intently as he speaks. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. These words, spoken over 2,000 years ago, still resonate today. Epictetus knew hardship intimately. Born into slavery, his body bore the scars of a master's whip, yet his mind remained free, unshackled by circumstance, unbroken by suffering. He taught that resilience is not about avoiding pain, but about finding power in our response to it. Let's explore his teachings through a story. The broken vase. Imagine a young woman named Livia. She lives in a modest home, her most prized possession, a beautiful vase passed down through generations. One day, as she cleans, she accidentally knocks the vase from its shelf. It shatters on the floor. Livia's first instinct is to cry out, to mourn the loss. But then she remembers Epictetus's words. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. She takes a deep breath and kneels beside the broken pieces. At first, she sees only the loss, the irreplaceable beauty of the vase, gone forever. But as she sits there, she begins to notice something else. The fragments catch the light in new ways, scattering rainbows across the floor. The vase is broken, but it is still beautiful. Livia gathers the pieces, not to discard them, but to create something new. She arranges them into a mosaic, a work of art that tells the story of resilience. This is the essence of Epictetus's teaching. Life will break us as it broke him. But in the brokenness, there is opportunity to rebuild, to grow, to create something new. The two arrows. Epictetus often spoke of the two arrows. The first arrow is what happens to us, the loss, the failure, the pain. The second arrow is our reaction, the anger, the despair, the self-pity. Imagine a soldier on a battlefield. The first arrow strikes his arm, a wound he cannot avoid. But the second arrow is his own, a spiral of fear and regret that deepens his suffering. Epictetus taught that while we cannot always control the first arrow, we can choose not to shoot the second. Picture a stormy sea. The waves crash against the shore, relentless and uncontrollable. But beneath the surface, the water is calm. This is the space within us, the space where we choose how to respond. The art of acceptance. Epictetus believed that resilience begins with acceptance, not resignation, but a clear-eyed understanding of what is and what is not within our control. Imagine a farmer tending his fields. He plants the seeds, waters the soil, and prays for rain. But the weather is beyond his control. If a drought comes, he does not rage against the sky. He adapts. He finds new ways to nourish his crops, or he plants different seeds that thrive in dry conditions. Epictetus wrote, "Make the best use of what is in your power, and take the rest as it happens." This is the art of acceptance. It is not about giving up, but about focusing our energy where it matters, on the things we can change, rather than the things we cannot. The inner citadel. Epictetus spoke of an inner citadel, a fortress within the mind that no external force can breach. This is the source of true resilience. Imagine a castle on a hill. Its walls are strong, its gates secure. Outside, the world rages, storms, invaders, chaos. But inside, there is peace. The castle's strength does not come from its walls, but from the wisdom of its ruler. We are the rulers of our inner citadel. No matter what happens outside, we can choose what happens within. Epictetus taught, "No one can hurt you without your consent." This is not to say that pain is imaginary. It is real, and it is inevitable. But we decide what it means. We decide whether it will break us or strengthen us. A story of resilience. Let's end with a story. Imagine a man named Marcus, a blacksmith in a bustling Roman town. One day, a fire sweeps through his workshop, destroying his tools and his livelihood. At first, Marcus is devastated. He feels the weight of loss, the sting of failure. But then he remembers Epictetus's words. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Marcus takes a deep breath and surveys the damage. He sees not just the ashes, but the opportunity to rebuild. He gathers what remains, a few unbroken tools, some scraps of metal, and begins again. Over time, his new workshop becomes stronger than the old one. He learns new techniques, creates new designs. The fire, once a source of pain, becomes a catalyst for growth. This is the power of resilience. It is not about avoiding hardship, but about finding strength within it. Stoic quotes for inner peace. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. These words, written by Marcus Aurelius, remind us that while we cannot control the world around us, we can always control our thoughts and reactions. Imagine standing on a shore, watching the waves crash against the rocks. You cannot stop the waves, but you can choose how to stand. This is the essence of inner peace, finding stillness within, no matter the storm outside. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, understood how our minds can create stories, stories of fear, loss, and disaster that feel real even when they are not. Picture a traveler walking through a dark forest. Every rustle of leaves becomes a predator. Every creak of a branch becomes a threat. But the danger exists only in the mind. Inner peace comes when we learn to separate imagination from reality, to see the forest as it truly is. It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Epictetus, born a slave, knew hardship intimately. He taught that resilience is not about avoiding pain, but about finding power in our response to it. Imagine a tree in a storm. Its branches sway and bend, but its roots hold firm. It does not resist the wind, it adapts to it. This is the art of inner peace, accepting what we cannot change, and finding strength in our ability to adapt. The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius believed that our thoughts shape our reality. If we fill our minds with fear and anger, our lives will feel heavy and dark. But if we cultivate gratitude and compassion, our lives will feel light and bright. Picture a garden. The seeds you plant, your thoughts, determine what grows. Inner peace comes from tending this garden with care, pulling out the weeds of negativity and nurturing the flowers of kindness. No person has the power to have everything they want, but it is in their power not to want what they don't have, and to cheerfully put to good use what they do have. Seneca reminds us that true wealth is not in having more, but in wanting less. Imagine a man standing in a field of wildflowers. He could spend his life searching for the rarest bloom, or he could marvel at the beauty already around him. Inner peace comes from contentment, from appreciating what we have, rather than longing for what we lack. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus Aurelius taught that our suffering often comes from our judgments, not from the events themselves. Picture a stormy sky. One person sees only the dark clouds, while another sees the silver linings. The sky is the same, but the perspectives are different. Inner peace comes when we choose to see the light, even in the darkest moments. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Epictetus believed that clarity of purpose is the foundation of inner peace. Imagine a ship setting sail. Without a destination, it drifts aimlessly, tossed by the waves. But with a clear course, it moves forward with confidence. Inner peace comes from knowing who you are and where you are going, and taking steady steps in that direction. He who is brave is free. Seneca understood that courage is the key to freedom. Not just freedom from external chains, but freedom from fear, doubt, and despair. Picture a bird in a cage. It may long for the open sky, but true freedom comes when it finds the courage to fly. Inner peace comes when we face our fears and choose to soar. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius compared the mind to a piece of cloth, colored by the thoughts we choose to dwell on. Imagine dipping a white cloth into dye. If you choose bright, vibrant colors, the cloth becomes beautiful. But if you choose dark, muddy colors, the cloth becomes dull. Inner peace comes from choosing thoughts that uplift and inspire, rather than those that weigh us down. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Epictetus taught that true wealth is found in simplicity. Imagine a traveler with a heavy pack. The more he carries, the harder his journey becomes. But if he lightens his load, he moves with ease. Inner peace comes from letting go of what we do not need and finding joy in the simple things. Begin at once to live and count each separate day as a separate life. Seneca believed that life is not measured by its length, but by its depth. Imagine a candle. It may burn for hours or minutes, but its light is no less bright. Inner peace comes from living fully in the present, cherishing each moment as if it were a lifetime. Stoicism versus modern self-help. Imagine a quiet evening in a modern city. The streets are alive with the hum of traffic, the glow of screens, and the buzz of constant activity. In a small apartment, a woman sits on her couch, her phone in hand. She opens a mindfulness app, taps, start meditation, and closes her eyes. The voice of a guide fills her ears, leading her through a practice of deep breathing and present moment awareness. This scene might seem far removed from ancient Rome, where Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca sat in candlelit rooms, writing in their journals and reflecting on the nature of life. Yet, the two worlds are not so different. The tools we use today, mindfulness apps, therapy, gratitude journals, are, in many ways, modern echoes of Stoic practices. Let's explore these connections through a story. Mindfulness apps and Stoic reflection. The woman in the apartment listens as the app guides her to focus on her breath. Notice the rise and fall of your chest, the voice says. If your mind wanders, gently bring it back to the present moment. This practice of mindfulness, of anchoring oneself in the here and now, is strikingly similar to the Stoic exercise of prosoche, or attention. The Stoics believed that true peace comes from observing our thoughts and emotions without judgment, recognizing that they are fleeting and often irrational. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Both mindfulness apps and Stoic reflection teach us to detach from the chaos of the world and find stillness within. The difference lies in the medium. Where the app uses guided audio, the Stoics used written meditations. But the goal is the same, to cultivate awareness and inner calm, therapy and Stoic dialogue. Now, imagine a man sitting in a therapist's office. He speaks of his anxieties, his fears of failure, his struggles with self-doubt. The therapist listens, then asks, "What would it feel like to let go of the need for control?" This exchange mirrors the Stoic practice of dialogue. Epictetus, the former slave turned philosopher, often engaged in conversations with his students, challenging their assumptions and guiding them towards self-awareness. Epictetus taught, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters." Therapy, like Stoic dialogue, is a space for exploration and growth. It helps us untangle our thoughts, question our beliefs, and develop healthier ways of responding to life's challenges. The Stoics might not have had therapists, but they understood the power of conversation with others and with oneself to heal and transform. Gratitude journals and Stoic premeditation. Back in the apartment, the woman opens a gratitude journal. She writes, "Today, I am grateful for the warmth of the sun, the laughter of my child, and the kindness of a stranger. This practice of gratitude is a cornerstone of modern self-help, but it also has deep roots in Stoicism. The Stoics called it negative visualization, the practice of imagining the loss of what we have to appreciate it more fully. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?' By reflecting on what we value and imagining life without it, we cultivate gratitude and resilience." The gratitude journal is a modern tool for this ancient practice, helping us focus on the good in our lives rather than what we lack. A story of connection. Let's bring these ideas to life with a story. Imagine a young man named Alex. He feels overwhelmed by the pressures of work, relationships, and the constant noise of modern life. One day, he decides to try a mindfulness app. As he listens to the guide's voice, he feels a sense of calm he hasn't known in months. Later, he begins therapy. In his sessions, he learns to question his assumptions and reframe his thoughts. He realizes that much of his stress comes from trying to control things beyond his power. Finally, he starts a gratitude journal. Each night, he writes down 3 things he is thankful for. Over time, he notices a shift. He feels more grounded, more present, more at peace. Alex doesn't know it, but he is walking a path laid out centuries ago by the Stoics. His mindfulness app is his prosoche. His therapy sessions are his dialogue. His gratitude journal is his negative visualization, closing reflection. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, consider the timeless wisdom of the Stoics and the modern tools that carry their legacy forward. Whether you use a mindfulness app, seek therapy, or keep a gratitude journal, you are part of a tradition that stretches back thousands of years, a tradition of seeking peace, understanding, and connection. Breathe in and out. The role of emotions in Stoicism. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Athens. The sun has set and the stars begin to shimmer above the Acropolis. In a small courtyard, a group of students gathers around their teacher. They are not learning about politics or war, but about the nature of emotions. The teacher, a Stoic philosopher, speaks softly. Emotions are not forces that happen to us. They are judgments we make about the world. This idea that emotions are not uncontrollable reactions, but choices we can regulate, is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that by understanding the source of our emotions, we can master them rather than being mastered by them. Let's explore this through a story. The storm and the sailor. I picture a sailor on a stormy sea. The wind howls, the waves crash, and the ship rocks violently. The sailor feels fear, a tightness in his chest, a racing heart, a voice in his mind screaming, "We're going to sink." But then he pauses. He remembers the teachings of the Stoics. Fear, they said, is not caused by the storm itself, but by the judgment that the storm is dangerous. The sailor takes a deep breath and reassesses. He knows the storm is beyond his control, but his response is not. He focuses on what he can do, adjusting the sails, steering the rudder, keeping his crew calm. As he does, the fear begins to loosen its grip. It does not vanish, but it no longer controls him. This is the Stoic view of emotions. They are not enemies to be defeated, but signals to be understood. Emotions as judgments. The Stoics believe that emotions arise from our judgments about the world. When we call something good or bad, we create an emotional response. Imagine a woman named Livia. She receives a letter informing her that she has lost her job. Her first reaction is anger, a hot, sharp surge of emotion. She thinks, "This is unfair. My boss is terrible. My life is ruined." But then she pauses. She remembers the Stoic teaching. It is not the event that disturbs us, but our judgment about it. Livia takes a step back. She asks herself, is losing my job truly a disaster? Or is it an opportunity to find something better? As she reframes her thoughts, the anger begins to fade. It is replaced by a sense of calm and determination. This is the power of Stoic practice. By examining our judgments, we can change our emotions. The 4 primary emotions. The Stoics identified 4 primary emotions: desire, fear, pleasure, and pain. They believed that these emotions stem from our attachment to external things: wealth, status, comfort, and the opinions of others. Imagine a man named Marcus. He is invited to a grand banquet where he hopes to impress his peers. But when he arrives, he is seated at the far end of the table, away from the host. Marcus feels a pang of disappointment. He thinks, "They don't respect me. I'm not important." But then he remembers the Stoic teaching. The only thing that is truly good is virtue, wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Marcus realizes that his worth does not depend on where he sits at a banquet. It depends on how he lives his life. As he shifts his focus, the disappointment fades. He enjoys the meal, the conversation, and the company. This is the Stoic art of emotional regulation. By focusing on what is within our control, our thoughts, our actions, our values, we free ourselves from the tyranny of external events. A story of emotional mastery. Let's end with a story. Imagine a young woman named Aria. She is deeply in love with a man named Lucius. But one day, Lucius tells her that he must leave to pursue a distant opportunity. Aria feels a wave of sadness. She thinks, "I will never be happy without him." But then she remembers the Stoic teaching. Happiness comes from within, not from external things. Aria takes a deep breath and reassesses. She realizes that her sadness is not caused by Lucius's departure, but by her judgment that his presence is essential to her happiness. She begins to focus on what she can control: her own thoughts, her own actions, her own life. She spends time with friends, pursues her passions, and finds joy in the simple things. Over time, the sadness fades. It does not vanish completely, but it no longer controls her. This is the essence of Stoic emotional mastery. It is not about suppressing emotions, but about understanding them. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you drift towards sleep, let the wisdom of the Stoics guide you. Picture your emotions as waves on the ocean. They rise and fall, but beneath them lies a depth of stillness. Breathe in and out. Remember, emotions are not forces that happen to us. They are judgments we make about the world. By understanding this, you can find peace, not by avoiding the waves, but by learning to navigate them. Stoic practices for sleep itself. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Rome. The city is cloaked in darkness, the streets silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves or distant bark of a dog. In a modest home, a man sits by the flickering light of an oil lamp. His name is Marcus Aurelius, and though he is the emperor of Rome, his mind is restless. The weight of the empire presses on him, and sleep eludes him. But Marcus has a ritual. Each night, before he retires to bed, he takes out his journal. He writes not of battles or politics, but of his thoughts, his fears, and his reflections on life. This practice, known as evening reflection, is his way of calming his mind and preparing for rest. The Stoics believed that sleep is not just a physical necessity, but a spiritual one. It is a time to restore not only the body, but also the soul. And so, they developed practices to quiet the mind and invite peaceful sleep. Let's explore these practices through a story. The journaling ritual picture. A woman named Livia. She lives in a bustling Roman town, her days filled with the demands of family, work, and community. By nightfall, her mind is a whirlwind of thoughts, unfinished tasks, unresolved conflicts, worries about the future. But Livia has learned the Stoic art of journaling. Each night, she sits by her lamp and writes. She begins by reflecting on her day. What did I do well? Where did I fall short? What can I learn from today? She does not judge herself harshly. Instead, she approaches her reflections with curiosity and compassion. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a precious privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." Livia's journaling is her way of honoring this privilege. By putting her thoughts on paper, she releases them from her mind. She creates space for peace, the practice of gratitude. After journaling, Livia turns to gratitude. She writes down 3 things she is thankful for: a kind word from a friend, the warmth of the sun, the laughter of her children. This practice, known as negative visualization, is a cornerstone of Stoic philosophy. By imagining the loss of what we have, we learn to appreciate it more deeply. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which you shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself the while, 'Is this the condition that I feared?'" Livia does not need to live in scarcity to practice gratitude. She simply takes a moment to reflect on the abundance in her life. As she does, her heart softens and her mind grows still, the art of letting go finally. Livia turns to the Stoic practice of memento mori, remembering that life is fleeting. This might seem like a grim thought, but for the Stoics, it is a source of peace. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." Livia reflects on this truth. She imagines her life as a sand timer, each grain marking the passage of time. She cannot stop the flow, but she can choose how to use the grains she has. This reflection helps her let go of the day's worries. She realizes that many of her concerns are trivial in the grand scheme of things. She focuses instead on what truly matters: love, kindness, the moments she shares with others, a story of restful sleep. Let's bring these practices to life with a story. Imagine a man named Gaius. He is a merchant, his days filled with the hustle and bustle of trade. By night, his mind races with thoughts of profits, losses, and competition. One day, Gaius visits a Stoic philosopher. He complains of sleeplessness, of nights spent tossing and turning. The philosopher listens, then offers a simple suggestion. Before you sleep, take a moment to reflect. Write down your thoughts, your fears, your gratitude. Let go of what you cannot control. Gaius begins to follow this advice. Each night, he sits by his lamp and writes. He reflects on his day, expresses his gratitude, and reminds himself of life's impermanence. At first, the practice feels strange, but over time, he notices a change. His mind grows quieter. His sleep grows deeper. One night, as he drifts off, he realizes something profound. Peace is not the absence of worry, but the presence of perspective. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, Let the wisdom of the Stoics guide you. Picture yourself as a traveler, setting down your burdens at the end of a long journey. Take a moment to reflect on your day. Write down your thoughts, your fears, your gratitude. Let go of what you cannot control. Breathe in and out. Remember, sleep is not just a physical necessity, but a spiritual one. By calming your mind, you invite peace into your soul. Stoicism in times of grief. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Rome. The air is heavy with the scent of olive trees, and the stars shine faintly above. In a small, candlelit room, a man sits at a wooden desk, his quill scratching softly across parchment. His name is Seneca, and though he is one of Rome's greatest philosophers, tonight his heart is heavy. He has just learned of the death of a dear friend, and grief grips him like a cold hand. But Seneca does not turn away from his pain. Instead, he picks up his pen and begins to write. His words are not just for himself, but for all who have known loss. They are a reminder that grief, though inevitable, can be endured with grace. Let's explore Seneca's teachings on grief through a story, the nature of impermanence. Seneca begins his letter with a simple truth: all things are born to die. He writes of the natural order of life, the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death. Just as the leaves fall from the trees in autumn, so too must all living things return to the earth. Imagine a forest in late autumn. The trees stand bare, their leaves scattered on the ground. At first glance, the scene seems bleak, but look closer. Beneath the fallen leaves, new life is stirring. Tiny shoots push through the soil, preparing for spring. Seneca reminds us that death is not an end, but a part of the cycle. It is a reminder of the impermanence of all things, a truth that, though painful, can also bring peace. The practice of premeditation. Seneca often spoke of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This is the practice of imagining the loss of what we hold dear, not to dwell on sorrow, but to prepare for it. Picture a woman named Livia. She loves her family deeply, but she knows that one day they will be gone. Each night, before she sleeps, she takes a moment to reflect on this truth. She imagines life without her loved ones, not to torment herself, but to appreciate them more fully. Seneca wrote, "Rehearse in your mind exile, torture, war, shipwreck. All the terms of our human lot should be before our eyes." This practice is not about pessimism, but about resilience. By facing the possibility of loss, we learn to cherish what we have while we have it. The role of reason in grief. Seneca believed that reason is our greatest ally in times of grief. It allows us to see beyond our pain and find meaning in our suffering. Imagine a man named Marcus. He has just lost his wife, and his heart is shattered. At first, he is consumed by anger and despair, but then he remembers Seneca's words: "The wise man is neither raised up by prosperity nor cast down by adversity." Marcus begins to reflect on his wife's life, her kindness, her laughter, the love they shared. He realizes that while she is gone, the impact of her life remains. Her memory lives on in the hearts of those who knew her. Seneca wrote, "The comfort of having a friend may be taken away, but not that of having had one." This is the power of reason. It helps us see that grief is not just a burden, but a testament to the depth of our love, a story of endurance. Let's bring these teachings to life with a story. Imagine a young woman named Aria. She has lost her father, a man who was her guide, her protector, her friend. At first, she feels as though the world has ended, but then she remembers Seneca's letters. She begins to journal, writing down her memories of her father, his wisdom, his humor, his unwavering love. As she writes, she feels a shift. The pain does not vanish, but it becomes bearable. She realizes that her father's legacy lives on in her values, her actions, her love for others. One night, as she drifts off to sleep, she whispers, "Thank you, Father, for everything." This is the essence of Stoic grief. It is not about denying pain, but about finding meaning within it. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, let Seneca's wisdom guide you. Picture yourself as a tree in winter. The branches are bare, the air is cold, but deep within, life stirs. Breathe in and out. Remember, grief is not an end, but a part of the cycle. By facing it with courage and reason, you honor the love that came before and the life that remains. The Stoic Sage, an ideal to aspire to imagine a quiet evening in ancient Athens. The sun has set and the stars begin to shimmer above the Acropolis. In a small courtyard, a group of students gathers around their teacher. They are not learning about politics or war, but about the ideal of the sage, a person who lives in perfect harmony with virtue, free from the turmoil of passion. The Stoics believe that while the sage is a rare and almost unattainable ideal, it is a goal worth striving for. The sage embodies wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, living a life of inner peace and outer integrity. Let's explore this concept through a story. The Sage and the Storm picture. A ship caught in a violent storm. The waves rise like mountains, the wind howls, and the crew is gripped by fear. But at the helm stands the captain, a figure of calm and resolve. He does not panic, nor does he despair. He simply adjusts the sails, steers the rudder, and guides the ship through the tempest. This captain is the Stoic Sage. He is not free from challenges, but he is free from the chaos of uncontrolled emotions. He faces the storm with clarity and courage, knowing that while he cannot control the wind, he can control his response. The Stoics believe that the sage is like this captain, steadfast in the face of life's storms. The virtues of the sage. The sage embodies the four cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom is the ability to see the world as it is, free from illusion. The sage understands that true happiness comes from within, not from external things. Courage is the strength to face challenges with dignity. The sage does not fear adversity, but sees it as an opportunity to grow. Justice is the commitment to fairness and kindness. The sage treats others with respect and compassion, recognizing that we are all part of a greater whole. Temperance is the art of moderation and self-control. The sage enjoys life's pleasures without being enslaved by them. Imagine a woman named Sophia. She is not a mythical figure, but an ordinary person striving to live like the sage. Each day, she practices these virtues, choosing kindness over anger, courage over fear, wisdom over ignorance. Sophia knows she is not perfect, but she also knows that the journey is more important than the destination, freedom from passion. The Stoics distinguish between passions and emotions. Passions, they believed, are irrational and destructive. Anger, envy, greed, and fear. Emotions, on the other hand, are natural and can be regulated. The sage is free from passions, but not from emotions. Picture a man named Marcus. He receives news that his business has failed. He feels a pang of disappointment, but it does not consume him. He reflects on the Stoic teaching. It is not what happens to you, but how you react that matters. Marcus does not rage against the world or wallow in self-pity. Instead, He focuses on what he can control: his thoughts, his actions, his values. This is the freedom of the sage. It is not the absence of feeling, but the mastery of it, a story of aspiration. Let's bring this ideal to life with a story. Imagine a young man named Lucius. He is not a sage, but he aspires to be one. Each day, he practices Stoic exercises, reflecting on his actions, meditating on his mortality, and striving to live virtuously. One day, Lucius faces a great challenge. His closest friend betrays him, spreading lies that damage his reputation. At first, Lucius feels anger and hurt, but then he remembers the Stoic ideal. He pauses and reflects. What would the sage do? The sage would not seek revenge or dwell on the betrayal. Instead, he would focus on his own actions, choosing kindness, fairness, and integrity. Lucius decides to follow this path. He confronts his friend with honesty and compassion, seeking to understand rather than to blame. Over time, the friendship is restored, not through force, but through virtue. This is the power of the Stoic ideal. It is not about perfection, but about progress. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you drift toward sleep, let the ideal of the sage guide you. Picture yourself as a traveler on a long journey. The path is not always easy, but each step brings you closer to your goal. Breathe in and out. Remember, the sage is not a distant figure, but a reflection of your highest self. By striving for wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance, you honor the Stoic ideal and find peace within. Stoicism and Minimalism. Imagine a quiet evening in a modern city. The streets are alive with the hum of traffic, the glow of screens, and the buzz of constant activity. In a small apartment, a woman sits on her couch, surrounded by the clutter of modern life: books, gadgets, clothes, and trinkets. She feels overwhelmed, as though the weight of her possessions is pressing down on her. But then she remembers the words of the Stoics. She picks up a book and reads. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This simple truth, spoken by the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, is the heart of minimalism. It is the idea that true wealth lies not in what we own, but in what we value. Let's explore this connection through a story. The Stoic roots of minimalism. The Stoics believe that material possessions are indifferent, neither good nor bad in themselves. What matters is how we use them. Picture a man named Marcus. He lives in a modest home, his belongings few but meaningful. Each item serves a purpose, from the sturdy table where he writes to the simple cup from which he drinks. Marcus does not crave more. He finds joy in the simplicity of his life, in the freedom that comes from owning less. This is the essence of Stoic minimalism. It is not about deprivation, but about intentionality. It is about choosing what adds value to our lives and letting go of what does not, the burden of excess. Now, imagine a woman named Livia. She lives in a grand house, her rooms filled with furniture, art, and gadgets. But instead of feeling content, she feels burdened. Each item requires care: cleaning, repairing, organizing. Each purchase brings a fleeting joy, followed by the weight of responsibility. Livia remembers Seneca's words: "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, that is poor." She begins to declutter, letting go of what she no longer needs. With each item she releases, she feels a sense of lightness, as though a weight is being lifted from her shoulders. This is the power of minimalism. It is not just about owning less, but about living more. The freedom of enough. The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from mastering our desires, not being enslaved by them. Imagine a young man named Gaius. He is tempted by the latest gadgets, the trendiest clothes, the most luxurious cars. But then he remembers the Stoic teaching. The wise man is content with what he has and does not desire what he cannot have. Gaius begins to practice gratitude. Each day, he reflects on what he has: a roof over his head, food on his table, the love of his family. As he does, he realizes that he already has enough. The desire for more fades, replaced by a sense of contentment. This is the freedom of enough. It is the understanding that happiness comes not from accumulation, but from appreciation, a story of transformation. Let's bring these ideas to life with a story. Imagine a woman named Aria. She lives in a cluttered apartment. Her day is filled with shopping, organizing, and worrying about her possessions. One day, she stumbles upon a book about Stoicism. She reads about Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire yet lived simply. She reads about Epictetus, who owned nothing but a lamp and a mat, yet was richer than kings. Inspired, Aria begins to declutter. She donates clothes she no longer wears, sells gadgets she no longer uses, and gives away books she no longer reads. As she does, she feels a shift. Her home becomes a sanctuary, her mind a place of peace. One evening, as she sits in her now simple living room, she whispers, "I have enough. I am enough." This is the essence of Stoic minimalism. It is not about having less, but about being more. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, let the wisdom of the Stoics guide you. Picture yourself as a traveler, setting down your burdens at the end of a long journey. Breathe in and out. Remember, true wealth lies not in what you own, but in what you value. By embracing simplicity, you find freedom, not just in your home, but in your heart. Stoic reflections on time. Imagine a quiet evening in ancient Rome. The city is cloaked in darkness, the streets silent except for the occasional rustle of leaves or distant bark of a dog. In a modest home, a man sits by the flickering light of an oil lamp. His name is Marcus Aurelius, and though he is the emperor of Rome, his mind is restless. The weight of the empire presses on him, and sleep eludes him. But Marcus has a ritual. Each night, before he retires to bed, he takes out his journal. He writes not of battles or politics, but of his thoughts, his fears, and his reflections on life. Tonight, his pen hovers over the parchment as he contemplates the nature of time. "You could leave life right now," he writes. "Let that determine what you do and say and think." These words, written over 2,000 years ago, still resonate today. Marcus Aurelius understood that time is our most precious resource, a fleeting, irreplaceable gift. Let's explore his meditations on time through a story, the sand timer picture. A sand timer, its grains slipping steadily from the top chamber to the bottom. Each grain represents a moment, a breath, a heartbeat, a thought. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the brevity of life. He wrote, "Think of yourself as dead. You have lived your life. Now take what's left and live it properly." This is not a morbid thought, but a liberating one. By remembering our mortality, we are reminded to live fully, to cherish each moment, to focus on what truly matters. Imagine a woman named Livia. She is busy with the demands of family, work, and community. Her days are filled with tasks, her nights with worries about tomorrow. But then she remembers Marcus's words. She picks up a sand timer and watches the grains fall. As she does, she feels a shift. The urgency of her tasks fades, replaced by a sense of presence. This is the power of the sand timer. It reminds us that time is finite, but also that each moment is a gift, the present moment. Marcus Aurelius believed that the present moment is all we truly have. The past is gone, the future uncertain. He wrote, "Do every act of your life as if it were your last." This is not a call to fear, but to presence. When we are fully present, we see the world as it is, not as we wish it to be. Picture a man named Gaius. He's walking through a bustling market, his mind racing with thoughts of what he must do next. But then he pauses. He takes a deep breath and looks around. He notices the colors of the stalls, the sounds of the vendors, the smells of the food. For a moment, he is fully present. This is the essence of Stoic practice. It is not about escaping the world, but about fully inhabiting it, the cycle of time. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the cyclical nature of time. He saw life as part of a greater whole, a cycle of birth, growth, decay, and renewal. He wrote, "The universe is change, life is opinion. Imagine a tree in a forest. In spring, it blooms with new life. In summer, it stands tall and strong. In autumn, its leaves turn golden and fall. In winter, it rests, preparing for the cycle to begin again. This is the nature of time. It is not a straight line, but a circle. Each ending is a beginning, each loss a chance for renewal, a story of presence." Let's bring these reflections to life with a story. Imagine a young woman named Arya. She is busy with the demands of modern life, work, relationships, social media. Her days are a blur, her nights restless. One day, she stumbles upon Marcus Aurelius's meditations. She reads his reflections on time and feels a pang of recognition. Inspired, she begins to practice presence. Each day, she takes a moment to pause, to breathe, to notice, to be. At first, it feels strange, but over time, she notices a change. Her days become richer, her nights more restful. One evening, as she sits by her window, she whispers, "This moment is enough." This is the essence of Stoic reflection on time. It is not about fearing its passage, but about embracing its gift. Closing reflection. Tonight, as you prepare for sleep, let Marcus Aurelius's wisdom guide you. Picture yourself as a tree in a forest, rooted deeply in the earth, your branches reaching toward the sky. Breathe in and out. Remember, time is not a burden, but a gift. By living fully in the present, you honor the past and prepare for the future. The power of mindfulness. Imagine a small village nestled in the hills of ancient Greece. The sun is setting, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. A young philosopher named Epictetus sits by the river, gazing at the water's gentle flow. His mind is calm, yet his thoughts are deep. Epictetus was known for his wisdom, but he never forgot the simple lessons that shaped him. One of those lessons came from a small act of mindfulness, a practice that changed his life forever. Let's revisit that story, the pebble in the river. Years ago, when Epictetus was just a boy, he lived in a bustling city where noise and chaos filled the air. His mind was constantly scattered, jumping from one thought to another like leaves in the wind. He struggled to focus, to find peace within himself. One day, while walking along a riverbank, he noticed an old man sitting quietly by the water. The man's eyes were closed, his breath steady and slow. Epictetus watched him for a moment before approaching. "Good sir," Epictetus said hesitantly, "I've noticed you sitting here for some time. May I ask what brings you to this place? The old man opened his eyes with a gentle smile. I am here to listen to the river, he replied, to feel its flow, to see its movement, and to be at peace. Epictetus was puzzled. But why the river? Why not the bustling streets or the noise of the city? The old man picked up a small pebble and held it in his hand. You see, he said, the key to peace is not in the noise of the world, but in the quiet stillness within us. Epictetus's curiosity was sparked. How can I find that stillness? My mind feels like a storm. The old man chuckled softly. Close your eyes, he instructed. Breathe deeply and listen, not to the river, but to your breath. Let everything else fade away. Epictetus did as he was told. He closed his eyes, focused on his breathing, and gradually the chaos in his mind began to soften. The noise of the city melted away, replaced by a sense of calm, the practice of presence. From that day forward, Epictetus made it a habit to practice mindfulness, pausing throughout his day to focus on his breath and quiet his mind. He discovered that by anchoring himself in the present moment, he could find peace even amidst life's chaos. Let's imagine another story, a modern tale of mindfulness. In a busy city today, there's a young woman named Isabella. Her days are filled with deadlines at work, endless emails, and the demands of family life. She often feels overwhelmed, her mind racing with thoughts of what she hasn't done or fears of what might go wrong. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, Isabella collapses onto her bed, exhausted. As she lies there, she picks up a book about Stoicism and begins to read. Mindfulness, she reads, is the art of being fully present in this moment. Curious, she decides to try it. The next morning, as she prepares for work, Isabella takes a moment to pause. She stands by her window, closes her eyes, and focuses on her breath. Inhale. Exhale. She feels the air fill her lungs, then leave again. For just a few moments, the noise of her thoughts fades away. When she opens her eyes, she notices things she hadn't seen before. The way the sunlight filters through the leaves, the sound of birds chirping outside, the warmth of the morning air. This simple practice becomes a turning point for Isabella. Each day, she carves out moments to be mindful, whether it's during her commute, at her desk, or while eating her meals. Over time, she finds that her mind grows calmer and her stress diminishes. The river of life, Epictetus, often reflected on the river by the bank, where he first learned the power of mindfulness. Life, he wrote, is like a river. Its flow is constant, its current strong. But if we let ourselves be carried away by it, we lose sight of who we are. By practicing mindfulness, Epictetus found his anchor in the present moment. He no longer let the river's turbulence overwhelm him, but instead rode its currents with grace and clarity. Closing reflection. As you prepare for sleep tonight, let these words guide you. In every moment, as Epictetus taught, remember to return to your breath. Let it be your anchor in the storm. Take a deep breath in and out. Inhale, exhale. Feel the stillness within you, like the quiet flow of a river. Know that no matter what comes tomorrow, this moment is yours. This present moment is all you need to find peace. The Harmony of Understanding, a Stoic Tale. Introduction. Epictetus in a relatable setting. In a quaint village nestled between rolling hills, Epictetus was known for his wisdom and calm demeanor. He roamed the streets, engaging with villagers from all walks of life, each bringing their own stories and challenges. Among these villagers was a man named Marcus, known for his hot temper and sharp tongue, who often stirred conflict wherever he went. Introducing the difficult character, Marcus was a blacksmith, whose passion for his craft was matched only by his impatience and quick anger. His words cut like blades, and his actions were as swift as his wrath. The villagers avoided him, fearing the storms that raged whenever he was displeased. Epictetus encounters Marcus. 1. Bustling afternoon, Epictetus found himself at the village square, where Marcus was pounding heated metal with vigor. The clang of hammer on anvil echoed through the air, a testament to both his skill and his frustration. A small disagreement over the price of goods had erupted into a heated argument between Marcus and another villager. Epictetus stood quietly aside, observing the altercation with a calm gaze. He saw Marcus's face flush with anger, his eyes blazing as he raised his voice. The other villager, cowed by Marcus's fury, stammered in defense. "Peace, friends," Epictetus interjected softly, stepping forward. His presence was gentle, yet commanding, diffusing the tension like a soothing breeze. Marcus turned to him, his expression darkening. "What is it to you? This man has insulted me and my work." Epictetus inclined his head, a serene smile playing on his lips. "I see a man defending his honor," he began, his voice steady and measured. "But I also see an opportunity for understanding, the interaction, modeling patience and empathy." Epictetus approached Marcus with kindness, acknowledging the validity of his feelings without condoning his outburst. He asked Marcus to pause and consider the roots of his anger. Perhaps it stemmed not from the villager's words, but from a deeper unease within himself. "You see," Epictetus said, placing a hand on Marcus's shoulder, "our reactions are often reflections of our inner struggles. What troubles you, Marcus, that you must lash out?" Marcus hesitated, his fiery anger beginning to soften under Epictetus's gentle probing. He recounted tales of sleepless nights and mounting pressures, feeling the weight of expectations pressing down upon him. Epictetus nodded empathetically. "We all carry burdens, Marcus. It is how we respond to them that defines us." He then invited Marcus to practice mindfulness and self-reflection. When you feel the heat of anger rising, pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what truly matters here? Modern day, parallel, a contemporary story. In a bustling city, amidst the chaos of modern life, lived a young professional named Alex, known for their sharp wit and quick temper. Alex found themselves frequently entangled in conflicts, both at work and in personal relationships. Alex's desk was a fortress of deadlines and demands, each email and meeting adding to the mounting stress. A heated exchange with a colleague over differing opinions spiraled into a full-blown argument, leaving both parties wounded. Frustrated and exhausted, Alex sought solace in the ancient wisdom of Stoicism, discovering Epictetus's teachings online. Intrigued by the concept of controlling one's reactions, Alex decided to apply these principles in their interactions. The next day, when a similar disagreement arose, Alex paused, mindful of Epictetus's advice. They took a deep breath and reflected on the root cause of their anger. Recognizing that their irritation stemmed not from the colleague's words, but from an underlying sense of being overwhelmed, Alex chose to respond with patience. "Perhaps I'm feeling more than just disagreement," Alex admitted calmly. "I've been under a lot of pressure lately." This acknowledgement opened a door to understanding, transforming the potential conflict into a conversation of mutual respect and support. Conclusion: reflection on Stoic principles. As Epictetus concluded his lesson with Marcus, he imparted words of wisdom that echoed through the ages. "Within you lies the power to transform conflict into connection. By mastering your reactions, you unlock the door to empathy and understanding. In the modern-day tale, Alex found peace in applying these timeless teachings, discovering that true strength lies not in dominating others, but in controlling oneself. Epictetus' legacy endures, reminding us that through patience and self-awareness, even the fiercest tempests can be calmed. The harmony of understanding, rooted in Stoic principles, continues to guide individuals in navigating the complexities of human relationships with grace and compassion. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, and his Stoic journey. Introduction to Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king. Marcus Aurelius, 121 to 180 AD, was a Roman emperor who reigned from 161 to 180 AD. Unlike many of his predecessors, he was not known for grand military conquests or extravagant displays of power. Instead, he earned the title, the Philosopher King, due to his deep commitment to philosophy and introspection. Born into a prominent family, Marcus was educated in rhetoric and philosophy from a young age. His reign was marked by both internal conflicts within the empire and external threats, such as invasions. Yet he navigated these challenges with a unique blend of Stoic principles and leadership. His connection to Stoicism, studying under philosophers, key beliefs. Marcus Aurelius was deeply influenced by Stoicism, a school of thought that emphasizes accepting things beyond our control while focusing on what we can influence. He studied under prominent philosophers like Dichotomy and Sextus of Chaeronea, which shaped his worldview. Key Stoic beliefs include the idea that virtuous living is the path to eudaimonia, happiness, the importance of controlling one's reactions, and aligning actions with nature. One of Marcus's most famous quotes from Meditations reflects this philosophy. Do not hen those who wrong you, but understand that their actions arise from their own ignorance or lack of virtue. This quote encapsulates his Stoic perspective on empathy and self-control, urging compassion towards others' shortcomings. Application of Stoicism in governance and leadership. During his reign, Marcus faced numerous challenges, including internal strife and external threats. He applied Stoic principles to maintain composure and make reasoned decisions. For example, he dealt with the invasions by the German tribes with strategic patience, focusing on long-term solutions rather than quick victories. His Stoic approach also influenced his governance. He emphasized justice and the welfare of his subjects. Marcus's rule was marked by an absence of personal indulgence, unlike many emperors before him. Instead, he dedicated himself to the role of a public servant, embodying the Stoic ideal of living in accordance with nature and focusing on what truly matters. Personal reflections and practices, like journaling. Meditations. Marcus's private life was one of deep introspection. He famously compiled his thoughts into Meditations, a series of personal reflections and spiritual exercises. This practice was central to his Stoic philosophy, allowing him to cultivate self-awareness and maintain inner peace. In Meditations, Marcus often reflected on the transience of life and the importance of living virtuously. For instance, he wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This sentiment highlights his belief in the primacy of internal control and the pursuit of virtue, legacy, and modern relevance. Marcus Aurelius's legacy endures as a testament to the power of philosophy in leadership and personal growth. His Meditations continue to inspire readers today, offering timeless wisdom on resilience, self-control, and ethical living. The lessons from his life are particularly relevant in modern times, where stress and uncertainty are common. His reign, serves as a reminder that true strength lies not in the ability to dominate others, but in mastering oneself. Marcus's blend of Stoic philosophy and leadership provides valuable insights for anyone seeking to navigate the complexities of life with grace and integrity. Conclusion: Marcus Aurelius's journey from a privileged youth to the philosopher king is a testament to the transformative power of Stoicism. His reign was marked by a unique approach to governance, rooted in introspection and virtue, and his personal reflections continue to offer guidance in modern times. By embracing Stoic principles, Marcus demonstrated that inner peace and ethical leadership are achievable, even in the face of great adversity. Through his life and writings, Marcus Aurelius remains an inspiration, showing us how philosophy can shape not only our personal lives, but also our approach to leadership and governance. His legacy endures, inviting us to reflect on our own values and aspirations in a world that often prioritizes external success over inner fulfillment.